get a guide, find a guide. If you're trying to do it yourself, as I did for years and years and years and years, and that one conversation, that was a guide. That was, so that's, in that sense, he was able to take to turn my mind into a direction that it was unfamiliar with. That's what a guide can do for you. Yeah.
Hello, Vince. Great to have you on the show.
You too. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, yes, we are here. And the show is called Awakening Now. And well, we can start from, what is your definition of awakening? So we know what we are talking about here. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It keeps changing, I guess. So all of a sudden I'm all tongue-tied. There are characteristics I could talk about, but it's funny because absolutely everybody that I've experienced waking up does it in a unique way, and yet there are common things between it. Yeah. So my experience so far of being awake is experiencing life differently to before, and everything I think to say sounds really cliche. There's no suffering now. And yet once there was lots of suffering. So when I try to help other people wake up, I have the idea that I'm helping them to discover the difference between what is actual and what is a story. And really that's what it's all about. Yeah. But the story thing is huge. It's absolutely huge. And the stories that we have about ourselves and about the world and the way it works, this is really what waking up is about. It's about seeing which stories are total rubbish and which stories are valuable or useful. That's what waking up is about.
Well, that's a really nice definition, yeah. Like recognizing the stories and coming out on the end of suffering with these stories. Great. So, Vince, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? What happened and how it happened that there was this recognition or this profound shift that changed this experience of life?
Yeah, I would looking back, and trying to make sense of history. What a waste of time that is. But doing that, I obviously this started for me before I even knew what was happening. Even as a child, I was different. I don't know how to put it. I questioned things. I didn't accept the status quo as being the best way things could be done. There was a lot of problems anyway. So it really went on for all my life. But I suppose I would say the official start of seeking would have been around about 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, and it started with me getting into religion. So I became a Baha'i, but I was looking a bit before that. I don't quite remember where or what I was looking for or at, but anyway, I became a Baha'i. I thought this is good. These people are good people. But that only lasted about 2 years, and then internal bickering in the Baha'i community had me lose any idea that was going to get anywhere. So it just escalated on from there. I was always into psychology. Excuse me. I became a hypnotherapist. I did hypnotherapy with people for about 5 years as a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
That was really interesting. I did some psychology at university, but that got pretty boring pretty fast. I didn't finish that. I got into Gestalt therapy and encounter groups. That was a big thing. In within probably a year or two of going to my first encounter group, I was running encounter groups on a regular basis, and that was pretty interesting. Good stuff. So a lot of the new age therapies, and it was. I guess I was looking for something that hadn't really taken on a spiritual path at that stage. It was more a psychological path that I was looking at. But there was intermingled with all of that other stuff like magic mushrooms were an issue. I That promised something that never eventuated either, but that possibly was the beginning of it becoming a more spiritual kind of path. Um, but again, looking back and telling it how it was at the time and looking back on it are two different stories, quite different stories, you know. So I was definitely a seeker. I got into seeking in the way I get into pretty well everything, I guess, in an obsessive way. I really I I lived it and breathed it, everything, everywhere, all the time. Um, and now looking back, I can see that reading various gurus and chasing the spiritual path, it got me high. I got really high on that, and it was great. It was just wow. It was better than marijuana for sure. Yeah, it was great. And looking back, I can see that I was fully invested in being a seeker. It was my badge of identity, that I was a seeker, because
Mhm.
seekers are good people, aren't they? They have compassion for the world and they want better for everybody else. So it's good to be a seeker. Well, I was very much a seeker, but at some point, again, I don't know. It's been a long, 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 long time since I read my blog, but there was a point came where I started a blog and I called it On the Verge because I had a feeling of imminency. I knew this was going to happen. So I started this blog and I thought I'll document this as I go through it.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure the exact month that I started it, but it would have been in around about my birthday, October in 2010, because I woke up pretty much on my birthday in 2011. So it was a year
Mhm.
of doing that blog before it actually happened, before I woke up. And it was a pretty eventful year. I got into the non-duality scene. I thought that might be the go. That would wake me up. So I even went and saw Sailor Bob in Melbourne a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
went to his meetings, and
Mm-hmm.
that was just a lot of gobbledygook. I couldn't get a straight answer out of them, and they kept on fobbing me off every time I asked a question. So, but what I did get from the non-duality scene was very valuable, was that ordinary people like me can wake up. That was a thing, you know. It kind of dispelled the idea that I had to go to India and become a monk in order to do it, which
Mm-hmm.
was on the cards. It could have happened, except that I had a family and it wasn't really appropriate. But anyway, yeah. Um, so I started this blog, and I was following that on, went through the non-duality scene. Oh, and towards that point, towards the end of that, I was getting really high on Jed McKenna. You know,
Ah,
the trilogy that he wrote. That I listened to the audio books. Must have listened to them 5 times each. You know, I just every time I was in the car, I was listening to them, and I got really high on that. And I tried his method, and that got me nowhere either. That autology,
mm-hmm.
what what I forgot what he calls it now, autophagy, something. Anyway,
Autolysis.
yeah,
Autolysis. Yeah.
yeah, that didn't get me anywhere. But looking back now, it kind of could have. But and looking back at what he was doing, he was getting people very excited about things, and that the way he wrote and the way it was, he did that very well. But it was a bit like the Indian bhakti path, the love path, the way to enlightenment is faith and acceptance, that kind of path. So you need a guru to fall in love with, and so on. And didn't that's not the way for the West. That might be the way in India, but it's certainly not the way here. Um, even though some people try it. But anyway, but I got very high listening to him. It was good stuff. Again, because there was this constant reminder that it could happen to ordinary people. You don't have to be a monk, sit in a cave, or do anything like that to get there. And you know, I often think I wish I knew back when I was 20 what I know now. I wish I could have woken up back then. And then I go, well, that's a really stupid thing to say. Obviously, everything that I went through was required for it to happen. So, you know, the fact that it took 50 years or more, that's just the way it is, you know. Anyway, um, my wife was looking after her sister who was dying of cancer in Melbourne, and that was about an 11-hour drive from where we were. And I used to go down there and stay with her, and we had our caravan in her front yard, and we lived, you know, evenings in that. Um, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was looking around the internet, whatever, and I don't quite know how it happened, but I came across this bloke in America by the name of Eric Gross,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple of online inter exchanges with him, and then we did a face-to-face video call, which he asked me to pay him $50 for, which I did happily. First time I ever paid anybody for anything like this, and the only time actually. Anyway, during that conversation, he said to me after a while, he said to me, and we didn't think to record it, that we should have done that. That would have been good. But anyway, he said to me, the line that woke me up, the sentence that he said was, Vince, While you keep scratching the mosquito bite of seeking, it will never heal. And the shock I got from that was the sudden realization that this is it. That any idea that I could bring to it was about something that was already finished in the past. Just wow, there's just to even have any opinion about it, to even put a label on it, is to influence it. It's just what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is, and it's this. And that was my epiphany. And I do have a clear memory, and I can recreate it somewhat. But I had the clear memory of walking down the sidewalk where we were staying in Melbourne, and the ground was coming up and meeting my feet. So it was like we were doing this dance together. The ground and me were doing this dance, and the ground and my feet would meet in the middle, and it just was like walking on a sponge or something. It was really weird. Anyway, and the trees were just they were in me. It was like there was no it's cliche again. There was no separation, but it wasn't. No, that's not right. It was not a lack of anything. It was a positive, not even a joining. It was I don't know how to put it. It was like I was experiencing from the perception of the tree. I don't know how to describe it better. Anyway, that only lasted for I think a day or so, and then I was just blown away and floating a lot, obviously in some kind of a bliss state for a little while. But would you believe it was only a matter of a couple of days later that I was back on the internet and looking, and this time I wasn't looking to wake up. This time I was looking for other people who had woken up. I needed to talk to somebody about this stuff. And guess what? It would have been, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks after I woke up that I discovered Liberation Unleashed. And you guys had only just started. It was like, it was, we were almost born together in the same time.
Yeah.
And there I got my confirmation, and it's kind of like that was the end of that and the beginning of whatever. Yeah. Oh, that was a little emotional now. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, what an amazing story. I know, as you say, it's a waste of time, but it is. It is an amazing story. And I connect with that story on so many parts, like being interested in psychology or having magic mushrooms for the first glimpse
Yeah.
or Jed McKenna.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a parallel, big parallel.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
And I like that mosquito analogy as well. Like you can't scratch. It's not going to heal.
Yeah. I don't know whether it ever used it on anybody else. It didn't matter, but it certainly made a shift here. It was almost like some complicated recipe, and that was just the final drop of vanilla essence that was required to have it all do what it needed to do. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Sweet mosquitoes.
I worry about these. These are lovely stories, and they are great. But these are one of the reasons why we have so many problems with people's expectations. because they hear these stories and they think everybody's walking around with the ground coming up to meet their feet all the time,
Mhm.
and so on. So expectations are probably one of the biggest blocks of the words that comes to mind, but it's not quite right. The biggest uh, biggest something in the road of waking up is people's expectations.
Agreed.
Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I uh, as well. I never share my story too much because I find it's irrelevant for the seeker. But not everyone is a seeker anymore. So for some
Yeah,
people,
sure.
it's entertainment and it's nice to connect and it's nice to
Yeah,
know about
absolutely.
you, you know. And
Yeah,
for the seeker, it doesn't matter what story they're going to hear, they will still have expectations.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
it's a problem sharing the story anymore. It may
No,
be
no.
irrelevant on some level for depends who's listening. But I also find that people write to me and say, "Oh, thank you for sharing these stories because I listened to that and that helped." And that story
Yeah.
itself sometimes is something that is that little mosquito bite
Yes.
that lands in the right place in
Oh,
the right time.
yeah. Yeah. With the Zoom groups I so frequently get feedback from people that just one of the participants have said, da 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 da, and somebody just goes, "Wow, that really changed my world to hear that." And it was a sentence out of nowhere. No, they didn't even know what they were saying, but
Right.
somebody really responded to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just love that. That's great. Yeah,
Yeah. So you never know
yeah,
who can listen, who can hear it, and maybe for the 1,000 times they hear the same sentence and then suddenly it lands.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also, I
yeah,
think that it's not so much words that are being perceived, but the energy or the presence or just your
sure.
being you,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
vibration of this expression. Like you said, you were getting high on reading books. Yeah, I get that. Because now if I read
yeah.
some Ramana or some kind of book, I do feel high. Just, you know, because of the energy there.
Yeah, I
What
guess that is energy. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I would like to ask you, um, as you are guiding so many people and as you are working relentlessly and tirelessly for so many years with all these seekers like me, but there's always something current. There's always current challenge. It changes a little bit slightly. So I wanted to ask you, what do you see is the current situation of a seeker that you find that most people that come in, they have kind of this similar stuckness or similar problem, or what is in the air right now?
I've never thought about it in general terms. I've never grouped people together like that before, and it doesn't nothing jumps out at me as a common issue.
Okay.
I I Everybody is so different, and as you say, I've been doing it for a long time, and at the moment I'm every night I'm responding to between four and seven, sometimes seven people. Not that often because some people don't write every day, but
Mhm.
a couple of hours at bedtime every night. Uh, it's and yet they're so different, every one
Huh.
of them, really, really different.
Well, that's good
Um,
to know. So it kind
yeah,
of tells people, it's a unique experience.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
unique
yeah.
path. So nothing to look at other people.
But what is common between them is that idea um, that they're not awake. That's the one thing I could say as a group that is the case.
Mhm.
it's almost like they want to come in and defend that situation. They they want me to fight them to help them wake up, kind of thing. That doesn't, that's not how it sounds. It doesn't, I don't mean that in that way, but it feels like there's such a fine line between not being awake and being awake. Yet at the same time, it's a fine line, but it's a world of difference.
Yes. From one side, there is a wall. It's like a wall to demolish, and you cannot cross it. From another side, there never was a line. So it is a fine line.
Yeah. Yeah. People's habits, the habitual way that people think, that's always a bit of a thing to overcome. But I never set out to achieve anything like this. When I'm guiding, I just respond to what people say, and if one thing they say, that can be the most innocent thing they'll say, and in there might be an unconscious reference to something that doesn't actually exist, could be a self or could be other things, and that they're responding to it like it's real. And so there's my opportunity to just point out to them that when you look at this, what do you find? Do you find anything actual there, that you're responding to like it is actual, and try to help them to discover that what they're responding to is actually only a story they've got in their head. So that probably is my prime focus, but I don't even know that if I do it like that, I can respond to somebody, and it might be, a full page on the forum, and I hit submit, and I don't even read what I've written. I say that if there's mistakes in there, there's mistakes in there. I just hit submit, and then if you ask me what I wrote, or if it gets lost, which occasionally happens, I have no idea what I've written. I've just got to start again, and that's
so
fine.
Fresh.
Yeah. So I see, in a way, one of the things that I do with the Zoom groups, and I'm doing here, and I'm not doing it really, it's just the way I am at these days, and probably to a degree the way I've always been. I don't know. But I would see that one of the things that I need to do as I'll put it in quotes, as a role model. When what I'm doing is I'm showing them what their expectations are about being awake, is how it is for me, is what I'm showing them, right? And so being authentic is really important. And I couldn't even imagine pretending to not be authentic. It just I don't have a choice about that. It's but that's part of it. People have got to see how it really is, how ordinary it is as well, and how we're not superhuman in any which way, and that we still shit, and we still make mistakes, we still get angry at times, and all of those things. It still happens. Only difference is how we respond to that when it happens. It doesn't generally escalate into some full-blown anything, because we see it happening like we never used to.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just waffling. I really don't know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, this awakening is coming back to authenticity.
Yeah,
So
I
all
think
these
so.
stories in the head are how I should be, what I must do, what I have to do to please others or get love or get to where I want to be, to become. This is all
Yeah,
stories. But when these stories are, let's say, resolved, then what is here is here. There's
yeah,
okay, this is reality right here, right now. And in that there is authenticity because one is able to act freshly or just say what they feel truly
yeah,
or express how it is.
exactly. And find it funny when something inappropriate comes out of my mouth. Every Friday night, or not every, or not doesn't happen every Friday anymore, but every Friday night there's a group of people here that they just go out for a meal together as a group,
Oh,
just to
nice.
give business to local
Uh-huh.
businesses, some custom, and when we moved here, our next door neighbour invited us to this straight away. So we started going out with them straight away, and they're lovely people, but none of them have a political or a social view, anything like mine. They're all extremely conservative people, and so frequently out of my mouth comes something entirely inappropriate when we're having a meal together, and they just think I'm mad because I just find it as funny as anything to watch people's reactions to things.
Hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Okay, talking seriously now, what would you say is your best advice for the seeker? Assuming there are people that are still looking for this mysterious awakening and they are
Okay.
here to get something out of this recording. So, what is
Yes, yes.
your advice? Straight
Well,
on.
that'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing that popped into mind was get a guide, find a guide. If you're trying to do it yourself, as I did for years and years and years and years, and that one conversation, that was a guide. That was so that's in that sense, he was able to take to turn my mind into a direction that it was unfamiliar with. That's what a guide can do for you. Yeah. So I see that as a really valuable thing. I've only heard of a couple of people that have woken up from meditating, so I don't see that as in itself a path to awakening. It's certainly something that is valuable and good stuff, as are lots of things. So actively seeking, but recognize the paradox that what you're seeking is keeping you from finding. Well, you're not going to find anything, but it's the seeking that's going to inhibit the especially taking it seriously. So if I could give any seeker a gift, I would give them an attitude. I would gift them an attitude that was 80% humor and being relaxed and treating it as a child treats play. That is, that they don't know that they're playing, they're just playing, but they're playing with an elevated sense of excitement as part of the discovery. So the mode of discovery playing, being prepared. That's not a good way to put it. Expecting to find a newness that's not a consistent part of previous experience. Yeah, but that's another one I've realized just recently too, and that is that most people can have little experiences of being awake every day, and they just don't acknowledge it. They just almost pretend like it didn't happen. They don't recognize it for what it is. And it's discovery. It's all about discovery.
Mm.
Yeah. It's this is not very coherent, I know, but I'm trying to. What I would like people to get out of this is a feeling that whatever comes up is okay. There's, even though we say you have these stories that you respond to, that's not to say don't have them. That's just to say recognize them when they happen. They're going to happen. They're going to happen. You don't control whether they happen or not. So if they happen, the only thing to do is to recognize that it's happened. And as soon as you recognize it, guess what? You're not sucked into it anymore.
Exactly.
Things change. Yeah. So the whatever happens, whatever turns up, there's no bad you, there's no wrong you, there's no unenlightened you to worry about. There's just what happens. And if you, like me, could really grok that by the time you become aware of what's happened, it's already finished. So absolutely no point in even thinking about wish it were different. If only it was different. It could be better or whatever, or it's going to have a bad outcome or anything. All of those stories. What a waste of effort. What a waste of energy. Yeah, if we can drop all of those and just accept what is, you're awake. It's as simple as that. It's easy to say, isn't it?
But it's so true as well. Like you are awake. Are you not awake right now? Yes, you are awake right now. Are you aware of your surroundings, of the sounds or sensations? Yes, you are. Are you aware of thoughts? Yes. So who's sleeping? Or who's not awake? What else is here that is not awake? So it's just that seeking that is saying this is not enough, this is not it. There is something else. Somebody else has got it.
Yeah.
But without that thought pattern, here you are. You've always been here. Yeah. And I also noticed that, seeking has two ends. One is running towards something else, like there's a carrot there. Let's go and catch it.
Mm.
Yes, and why it's happening is because it's running away from something.
Mm.
There is that running away from feeling uncomfortable, feeling confused, feeling lonely, feeling, don't know, whatever it's feeling. Yeah. So there is running away and seeking. It's the same movement out.
This is an absolutely huge part of it. When once we have moved a little, there's very much this thing that whatever we think, any thoughts, and also a lot of action that we might take are simply diversions away from those uncomfortable feelings. And again, it's not to say that they shouldn't happen. It's not to say don't do them, but rather just recognize them when they do happen. And I watched a thing on TV. I forget what, doesn't matter what channel, but it was a movie and they had parallel worlds in it.
Mm.
And when I'm watching this science fiction about parallel worlds, the multiverse, I had this epiphany. It was a real epiphany, a shift for me. It came, and that is that we have those two parallel worlds accessible to us now. And the world that most people, that society has created, that world is pretty much what happens in the movies and the real life movie, but it's still the movie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a second world that's underneath that, and it's beneath language. As soon as we get beneath labels and beneath explanations and descriptions, down there at that level, there's a whole other world, and it's fucking brilliant. It's amazing. That's when you look at a blade of grass and you go, "Wow, look at that! Isn't that something else, eh?" Yeah. Or you go, "That flower, the color of that flower is so intense, I can feel it."
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there's a whole world like that. You know, but it's all underneath the world of language. It's not, it's as soon as we come up into the language world, we lose that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like being a baby,
Yes,
experiencing what is
absolutely.
here,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
knowing what is this. Yeah, just
yeah. Not
seeing it.
attempting to label it or describe it, just going, wow, wow, look at that. Yeah,
And here we go. And that's being awake to what actually is, to what is real.
absolutely.
Yeah. The dreaming or sleeping is the mind with
Yes.
all the stories and all the images and
But we send our kids to school, even to kindergarten, and right at that stage, we start telling them, look, he's smart. Don't be smart like him. You know, we don't actually say don't be dumb like him, but we imply that. But we put smart, mental smart, up on a pedestal from the moment we start going to school or even before, and we end up with, you know, the very epitome of everything is the genius, you know, the ability to use his mind in such a way, and yet all of our problems come from the misuse of mind.
yeah. Funny. Because it's such a wonderful instrument.
Absolutely, it is. It is fantastic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I'm optimistic. You know, I'm seeing so many people come to Liberation Unleashed. You know, the other day there was 29 people waiting at the gate. How amazing is that? You know, and it goes through. Now, I had some reason to, and I went through the archives of all of my people
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and I added up the number of people that I'd guided and the number of people that woke up that
All
went through
right.
the gate.
Yes.
Um, and my first reaction was disappointment. I thought it was a much higher percentage than what actually was that went through.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in that 10 years, there was about 70 people that I guided that went through the gate. And this was going back a couple of years when I did
Right.
this.
Right.
And I thought to myself, you know, at this rate, we'll get there. We'll end up waking the whole world up. We can do it. Yeah. Because every one of those 70s, a whole lot of them became guides and they guided other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
it is. It is. And then I've recently come across the POK groups. I haven't had any much to do with them, but they seem to be doing a good job as well. So there's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of people out there waking people up. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Yeah. I think it's the time now for that.
and
Especially after COVID, because lots of people were sitting at home doing nothing, going crazy. And that's the
yeah,
time to start looking what's going on.
yeah, Yeah, I
Like you
think a lot
need
of people
some level
have.
of stress or suffering to start actually questioning what's going on. Well, it's really happening out of like, yeah, curiosity. Oh, let's see. It's
Yeah,
more
I
like a
think it's
necessity.
more. Yes, I think so. I think it's compulsive for a lot of people. Yeah. And they're not, I would say I get as many young people as old people as and other people in the middle. They're not, it's not confined to
Mhm.
one generation or another. It's spread right across. It's amazing. I'm working with one bloke at the moment who's 82. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I'm working with a few older blokes, but yeah, that's good. And some young ones as well.
Yeah. I finished guiding on a forum, I don't know, a few years back now, because I find like speaking or being
Yes.
together for like hour or hour and a half, it's so much more effective
Yeah.
for me now because putting all these questions, it's fine. It works.
Yes.
And having your own time to answer them, it works. But when you have this live interaction, I think it's more than just a question that comes through.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something else going on, and just sitting in silence sometimes is the best teaching,
Sure.
or just sharing that moment and seeing what arises. It's so interesting. So now I only work on video calls, and it's so
Mm.
rewarding.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I could do more of that. Each that the meetup that happened yesterday morning, I've now got I don't know the exact figure. Last I saw it was 203 people on the mailing list,
Uh-huh.
and I would generally get around about 20 or so would turn up to that meeting
Uh-huh.
every my Monday morning. Um, and I forgot what I was going to say about that now.
Yesterday morning there was a meeting.
Yes, yeah, yesterday. Um, the the reason the re well, one of the things I've been doing because I've been building a website for the people who are more inclined to be a do-it-yourself
Mhm.
seeker, and hopefully uh, give some value to them because there's so much crap out there as well. It's anyway. So what I've been doing is I've been using this thing called Fathom to record my calls, and then
Mhm.
it will do a transcript for me of the call, and I can read through the transcript, and I can cut and paste bits out of that to put on the website. But also it tells me where in the timeline that bit of video is. So I'm going to, although I haven't done it yet, other than one, I did one with Paul Simpson, and he at one of the groups had did a well, he was talking to somebody, but it went on for a while about just about what enlightenment was, and it was
Mhm.
brilliant. It was really good, and I put that as a video clip on my website. And would you believe, one lady read that page and watched that video and woke up from that. That was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And she was at the video call yesterday morning. She was great.
Right.
She'd be a brilliant person for you to interview. I thought about interviewing her myself. She was great. She was articulate and so fresh because it only happened recently, and she's still really excited. It was great. I
Wonderful.
was just loving it as she was
Mhm.
telling us about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to watch that video, that you might, I can send it to you, a
Yeah, we
link
can
to it.
put that in the link in the description under the video when I
Well,
post it.
I haven't posted that one publicly, so I should check with her that if she's okay
Oh,
to
sure.
share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I will do that. I would say there'll be no problem. I think nobody that's awake is going to be worried about, what they look like or anything like that. Whoops.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I love about this as well, that you never know when you come on a call and what happened in that week,
Yeah.
in that few days, you know? And I recently also had a guy that he reached out to me, and he was in distress so big. He was feeling horrible with all his life situation. And I say, okay, I'm gonna see you on Monday. Just come, And I was thinking, I can't help this guy. I'm just gonna support him and just listen to what he has to say. And when I met him, he was shining. He was like, oh my God, there's nothing. It's all a story. I was blown away. I was just such a pleasure to be in that call and hear him speaking about this for the first time. And you know what? He watched one of these videos I recently posted with some guy, and just listening to that video, to the guy's story, that something happened. So here we come all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, I know what I was going to say. With the reason that I started that Zoom group was because I felt that a lot of people had gone through the gate and needed some post-gate support and a community as well, and to be able to talk about these things. And so, but you can't compare that live video stuff to working on the forum. It's so different, And I've got some people that I do both with. And recently I had one lady that I was working with on the forum, and I just, every time I was responding to her on the forum, I thought, we should talk. We need to, so I set up a Zoom with her, and it's been really good. She's responded to that very well. And because I was having trouble on the forum, because in the beginning there's just a lot of, let's work out how to communicate with each other. Stuff goes on. It takes a little while for what people to expect from you and what you expect from them, and how we can talk in a way that the other one can hear. That always takes a while. Well, you kind of do that unconsciously when you're talking face to face. It happens pretty easily, doesn't it? Yeah. But my family situation and my life in general, I just haven't got time to do as many. I mean, that one that I do on Monday morning, I have to get I feel apologetic, but I have to pull the plug and say, look, we've got to finish this because we've just gone on for 3.5 hours. And if we don't say it, we'll be here all day, and it's productive stuff. It's not nothing. So you got to kind of cut things off a little bit to finish it. Otherwise it just goes on for too long. But and try and limit to, the people that I'm just doing a one-to-one with Zoom. I would try and limit that to an hour. But it frequently gets past that as well. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Wow. It's wonderful to talk to you, Vince. And I would like to ask you, do you have any final words or something?
I don't know.
Till we meet again.
Yes, we will. Yeah. And I'd like to do for the guides at LU and potential guides at LU what happens at the other Zoom meetups, and that I like to see a community of guides connecting with each other and sharing ideas and being supportive and all of that kind of stuff, because guides do tend to operate in isolation at LU more than they need to, I think. So yeah, it'd be good if we can get something happening on those lines as well.
Well, it would be so nice to meet in person one day, like somewhere. A big, massive LU meeting of guides and seekers and whoever. That would be great. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe that's the next step. Because before was forum text, now it's video. So what's next? Meeting in person. Yeah.
That's a full circle, isn't it?
Wonderful. So let's just share some details where people can come and how to find you and to join your meetings.
Yeah, anybody's welcome who's interested. On the Monday morning one, generally there's about half a dozen other guides besides me, as well as all the other seekers. So there's lots of resources for people if they want to get into it. Now, how to do it? Well, my email is simple. It's vinceschubert@gmail.com. So email me and I'll put you on the list to join the meeting and send you the links and do all of that. My website is oneness, the number one, NESS.info. Oneness.info. And that's very early days, but I'd love any involvement in that as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
All right. And I've used WordPress to make that website, but I'm not that good at it, but I do know a little bit. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, thank you so much for this lovely and informative conversation. Really enjoyed meeting you and knowing a little bit about you.
Okay.
Great.
I'll interview you one day. Yes.
Okay. Can do that. Sweet. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye for now. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed meeting Vince, and you're very welcome to come to his meetings. They are for free, and you can find a community and ask your questions or be guided as well. Please join Liberation Unleashed forum. Our guides will guide you for free as well, and in text format. And if you need my help, send me an email through my website, ilona@ciunaite.com, and we can set up some sessions and see where it takes you. And the only place to get is right here, right now. Thank you for watching. Till next time.